off.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to our first free live event of 2017. Today's topic is getting to the decision maker. Tony is going to have some fun with you, tell a great story, and without further ado, Tony.
Thank you, Beth. That is the voice of Beth Allen, our most senior team member ever of the Veto movement. So, Beth, it's always nice to partner up with you and do these events and grow our listenership and share our intellectual work. And so, if you would, and Beth's going to be running the slides for me because I'm somewhat technically impaired. So, Beth, let's move to the next slide here, if you would. So I want to make a promise to everyone that's listening right now, is that my promise to you is that I'm not going to ever suggest that you folks do something in your sales process, in your career, that I don't do in mine. So what we're going to be covering today and in the future is not something it's like I'm testing on you. You know, this is something that I do myself. I've gone through all the pains of failure and rebooting and next revision and all that kind of stuff, and I've gotten all that out of the way for you. So this stuff is bulletproof, and when I stop using it myself, I'll stop teaching it myself. And so that's my promise to you. Now, I didn't just wake up one day showing up for work saying to myself, well, geez, you know, I've got to start calling on top decision makers. I've got to get to the person with the ultimate veto power. I didn't just wake up one day and have that epiphany. I actually had a very unfortunate situation where after 4 years of absolute stellar sales performance, you know, like Rookie of the Year, Salesperson of the Year, Quota Buster, I was halfway through the year and I got put on probation because I was under quota. I was like 60% of quota. And so it was a real wake-up call for me, especially since the product, service, and solution I was selling, you know, took about a year to sell. It was a long, protracted sales cycle. It was a computer and computer software. So it took a lot of effort to sell what I was tasked to doing in 6 months to save my job, which would normally take me a year under normal circumstances. So I had to change what I was doing. I figured out very quickly to change that I needed to call on individuals on a first call situation that had the influence and authority to make the sale happen. And that really typically wasn't who I was used to calling on. I was used to calling on, you know, the scientists and engineers and IT professionals, as they were called. And so I had to make this huge leap of faith and do something that I was very, very uncomfortable doing, which was calling on individuals that, you know, I just never called on before. To make matters worse, which I by the way, I overcame that discomfort by calling on industries that I was familiar with, you know, and I knew all about manufacturing and finance and technology sectors. And so I was very comfortable doing that because I knew the industry, you know, and I knew our product was valuable. So making the leap into calling on top decision makers was easier for me in areas I was familiar with. However, part of me getting taken off probation and keeping my job is not only did I have to get on my quota, but I had to start a sales process with a college or university because we had just announced a piece of software that was for colleges and universities. Now, that was a huge challenge to me because I'd never, ever stepped foot on a college campus. I never went to college. I went into the United States Navy after high school and got my technical training and served my country and then just started to work. And so I never went to college. And here I was tasked with selling a computer system to a college and university. I had to start that sales process. And so, you know, I don't know if I can remember what drove me to do this, but I booked an appointment with the Dean of Schools of Palomar College in San Diego. And this was an appointment I booked, and it was about a week from the time I booked it. And after I booked it, I thought, what am I doing? I'm crazy. why don't I just call on the technology department? Why did I book an appointment with the dean of schools? I don't have a college education. This person's going to be so much more educated than I and understand many things that I don't understand and have diplomas and accomplishments and letters behind their name and all that kind of stuff. I was in a fit, and the closer I got to the scheduled appointment, the more nervous and freaked out I became. The day before the appointment, the scheduled appointment, I wanted to call and cancel it. I was so freaked out that I broke out in hives, and I was sitting in this dean of schools office the next day for the appointment, looking around at what's on the walls, these diplomas and these trophies and accolades and statues, and I'm thinking, wow, what am I doing here? This is nuts. And so I was actually getting up to leave. That's how freaked out I was. And in walks the dean of schools for Palomar College. He puts his hand out to shake my hand, and I'm trembling. I shake his hand, and I don't know what came over me, but I just blurted out of my mouth, I was getting up to leave. I've been so nervous about meeting with you because I don't have a college education. And he looked at me like I was crazy, and he waves his hand like, okay, enough, sit down, sit down. And so I sit down, and he looks at me, and he says, so you were going to walk out, and you were going to cancel this appointment? And I said, yeah, I really was, because I'm so nervous about meeting with you. He says, that's very interesting, because I was going to cancel my appointment with you. And I looked at him, and I said, why? And he said, because I don't know anything about computer systems. And right then and there, this was like a lightning bolt that hit me, and I thought, my God, holy jeez, this high-powered, highly educated individual, the dean of schools, was going to cancel the appointment with me because he was nervous because he didn't know anything about computer systems. And I was going to cancel it because I don't know anything about college. And right there, I cracked the code for selling to top officers of any company, in any place, at any size, at any industry. And that is, we all have equal fears. And if you have value to offer anyone, no matter what their title is, you have the right to do so. And so on that note, I did bust my quota that year. I didn't sell the Palomar College anything, but I did start the process, which was part of the condition for me to keep my job. But I did totally crack the code on reaching out to people with lofty titles, reaching out to people that can make things happen very quickly, and reach out to people that have the power and influence and authority. And so, Beth, if you would, please go to the next slide. I want to define the word influence for us, because it is all about influence and authority. And the definition of influence is having the ability to change the minds of other individuals, especially if those individuals are in high places. So we need to find the individual in our prospect base that has the ultimate amount of influence, which means they could change the mind of anyone else they need to change the mind of to make the decision that we need for them to make. Now, Beth, if you would, the next slide, please. The definition of authority is the ability to spend money without anyone else's approval. So now think about this. If we are sitting in front of, or standing with, or meeting with, or presenting to an individual with the ultimate amounts of influence and authority, we are with the ultimate decision maker, the person that can make it happen. Because I don't know about you folks, but in my sales career over the almost 40 years, there's been situations where I thought I was with the decision maker, and when it came time for the person to spend the money or to sign the agreement, they would say something like, well, we've got to run this up the flagpole. And I'm thinking, what, flagpole? What are you talking about, flagpole? Where's this flagpole? Well, we have to go get the rubber stamp. And I'm thinking, where's the rubber stamp? I was not with the decision maker. They lied to me. How dare them? But it happens. And it needs to stop happening, because it really racks up our cost of sales and causes us to fall further and further behind quota, because our sales cycles are protracted and we wind up losing opportunities when we should win them. And so influence and authority plays an important role on identifying the decision maker and making sure we start our sales process with that person who has the influence to make things happen and the authority to spend the money to make things happen. So when you look at what your product, service, and solution costs, full cost of implementation, if you're sitting with an individual that has to go get his signature to make that happen, you are not with the ultimate decision maker. So Beth, if you would, the next slide, please. I coined the phrase veto, very important top officer, the person with the ultimate veto power. And over the years, salespeople have asked me, well, what are the titles of these vetoes? And they've got lots of different titles, but here's the key about this. Whatever title you pick for the very important top officer, the top decision maker, they have to hold that ultimate veto power. And Beth, if you would, the next slide. Rather than title, veto has to own the influence and authority to make it happen. And so I don't want to get bogged down on titles. I do want to instill and install and promote and suggest and invite you to say that veto owns the influence and authority it takes to make your deal happen without going anywhere else for anyone else's approval or money. Beth, if you would, the next slide. Thank you. Now, vetoes own certain initiatives, they own certain characteristics, they own certain tasks. And vetoes create initiatives. Look at it that way. Veto wants to drive their book of business or their area of responsibility or their division or their company or their enterprise. They want to drive it in a certain way to a certain goal, plan, and objective. So the first reason we need to reach out to this person I call veto is that they know what's going on. They create what's going on. Beth, if you would, next slide. The next reason we need to reach out to this person is they are on a pathway of constant improvement. They're always looking for new ideas to create new results and better results. They are constantly looking for innovation and ideas and individuals that can help them not only self-improve, but improve every area in the area of their responsibility. Now, Beth, if you would, the next slide. Thank you. The reason, the third reason, is vetoes own the budget. Here again, they don't have to go anywhere to get the money. They wouldn't be shopping for something if they didn't have the money to buy it. And so the next reason, and Beth, if you would, the next slide, the fourth reason to reach out to this person, this top decision maker, the person I call veto, the very important top officer, they know who's who in the organization, and they know who's doing what to who, and they know who's got the ball in any one point in time in the game. And so veto sits at this lofty place that has great visibility across the entire enterprise or across their entire area of responsibility. The next reason to reach out, Beth, if you would, is that veto defines what I'll choose to call business criteria. In other words, the business criteria of who veto selects as a business partner, as a supplier, as a thought partner, as an advisor. They know the business criteria, and they'll share that with you. And the business criteria, when you get to a point in your sales process, and I would hope, and I'm going to suggest that it happens very quickly in your sales process, where you're understanding the business criteria, what you need to do to get the business, you will have really helped qualify the account at the highest level. Beth, if you would, now those are 5 reasons. Here's the 6th reason that we need to be reaching out to this person we've identified so far as veto, and that's veto gets paid to make decisions. They're very decisive people. I mean, they're not going to waste your time. They're going to engage you in a process that you will help guide so they could make the decision in your favor. That's what they get paid to do. They're not looky-loos. They're not tire kickers. And sure, they got to do due diligence. but they always do it with an intent, an upfront and honest intent, so they can make the decision, so they can constantly improve. And so these 6 reasons to reach out to Vito are a cornerstone of why we need to get to the top decision maker. And I'm not saying we ignore anyone else in the organization. We just need to make sure that this person, Vito, is totally engaged in every aspect of our sales process. Beth, if you would, the next slide. The Vito results. These are the results that just about every top decision maker in the free world looks to over-accomplish. Growing their revenue, cutting non-value expense, in other words, getting rid of stuff that doesn't add to the value of their product, service, or solution, increasing efficiencies and effectiveness of anyone or everyone or anything or everything in their enterprise, and minimizing the risk of doing that stuff. Now, I'm going to guess for a moment that the product, service, and solution you provide to the marketplace can do one or more of the results that you see right in front of your face right now. Because if it can't, you might want to find someplace else to work. Because these are cornerstone results that every top decision maker wants to overachieve. Now, granted, the priorities of these 4 might change or do change from time to time, and it's worth us doing some research to find out, what they're chasing right now. But rest assured that this is a cornerstone results list for every single decision maker in the free world. And speaking about a list, Beth, if you would go to the next slide, please. I'm going to invite each and every one of you, maybe not right now, but until we meet again, to make a list. And do it in a quiet place. Sit down if you could find a quiet place. Maybe that's in your car or down at the beach or wherever you find peace and quiet, and get a piece of paper. And now, Beth, if you would, the next slide, because this is a bit of homework I'm going to suggest that we all do. And that is to create a list and jot down 3 areas that you believe you can help grow revenue, cut non-value expense, increase efficiencies and effectiveness, and minimize risk. Give it some thought. When you get it done, share it with your manager, share it with a peer or another professional salesperson or the top salesperson or your customer service individuals. Bring some other individuals in after you create your list so you can validate what you have on this piece of paper that we're going to call homework. And because as we move forward, we are going to take this list and do some amazing things with it that will put you in front of each and every decision maker, top decision maker in your sales territory. If you would, Beth, the next slide. Talk about next steps. Keep listening to the audio tips that we are sending out, because we have listened to the woes of our user base. Over 14,000 people on our email list have told us that there are certain woes that they have. So these audio newsletters you're getting and these free web clinics you'll be listening to that I want to invite you to keep attending are going to address each and every one of those woes. So as we move forward, if there's something we've missed, if there's something else you need, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And on every audio newsletter we send out, there's a way for you to ping us back and tell us how it's going and ask a question or whatever. So now, Beth, if you would, the next slide. If you want in this process to get on the fast track, to have Beth and I help you go as fast as you can and get as fast as you can with my personal help one-on-one to every decision maker in your sales territory, then just check Club Vito out. And now, Beth, I'm going to ask you, did I miss anything, or would you like to add anything to what we've already accomplished? Because I'm out of slides.
The only thing that I would add, and I'd put it in the chat, that the live session, this live session will be sent, the recorded version will be sent to you an hour after we end. We would like to invite you to reply to our newsletters if there is something more specific or more clarification, or tell us what you need, because then we can start building that relationship and working more closely with you. We're here. It's not a one-sided newsletter. And so thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. And we look forward to working with you closer in the future. And I think that's it, Tony.
Thank you, Beth. Thanks, everybody. Have a masterful rest of the day. See you next time. Bye-bye.